Have you ever imagined that a single dog may be the key to saving lives in the midst of the chaos of a natural disaster? It seems like a story from the movie, but trust me, it's real and it happened to be true. In times of tragedy, when everything around you seems to fall apart, a lot of times we forget that a fundamental truth. All animals, especially dogs, have a sense of the extraordinary and the truth which defies all logic. And it was precisely this power that has changed the course of the rescue of desperate. Have you ever gone through something that seems impossible to explain this? Perhaps it's a feeling, a choice, an act which at the time it seemed more intuitive, but that proved to be the only option in the face of a crisis. Stay with me until the very end, because that's all you're going to find out now. You will be surprised, moved, and to renew their faith, courage, and hope. This is a dense forest, with tall trees, roots entwined, and covered with a layer of dust and rubble left by a landslide. The sound of the rescue equipment is echoed in the distance, while the fire department's courageous attempt to locate victims trapped under the fallen trees. But not for the radio, and without a clear direction, the efforts appear in vain. In this scene, the despair and uncertainty hang in the air. It is at this moment that something unexpected happens. A dog comes up in the middle of the forest with a keen eye, looking at everything around her. He did not come by chance. Her footsteps are silent, almost as if I knew the place like the back of your legs. Little by little, he begins to walk away, looking back on it as if it was calling out to someone or asking someone else to do. And then a question arose in the mind of the one who came with the film. Is that the animal urges for a reason? Or is it that he's just lost, as in so many other dogs, that they are likely to be the victims of a disaster? The hesitation, it's only natural, but its a curiosity increases. The one that leads to a dog to act in such a manner, with such insistence. The answer, as you will see, it is much more than a mere hunch. It's a deep emotional connection and a loyalty that goes beyond human understanding, able to make an entire rescue operation. Because sometimes what appears to be an impulsive decision might just be the one that saves lives. And the one who comes in the following, we will show that in the midst of the chaos, and hope you can come from where you least expect them, even under the watchful eye of a dog, who by chance or by fate to become a hero. And there you have it. You can imagine the strength of a connection so intense it can get. When all seemed lost, that look, that silent presence, changed the course of everything. It is as if, in that moment of darkness, a spark of hope that had been kindled by the love that defied words. And it is precisely in this that I want you to think at the time, the most impulsive ones, the ones that seem the most simple to do, or even impulsive, it can be life-saving. You may, in your routine, you will also be passed for a few moments in an attitude of surprise that has made all the difference, doesn't it? To share these experiences with you here in the comments, this is one way to strengthen our community and to show that, together, we can all learn from each other and to inspire those who follow the channel. If this story has touched you in some way, I've looked for a similar experience, or even a feeling that this story has woken up. Your feedback is vital for us to continue to create content that is truly meaningful in the lives of each one of them. And of course, even if you believe that this is the kind of story that deserves to be shared, don't forget to like the video. It helps others. The more people will have access to this content, full of hope and your courage. In addition to that, please subscribe to the channel so we can continue on this journey together, exploring the stories that show the strength of the connection, courage, and true love. Your being here is what makes this channel grow, and to reach more people, and to bring hope and inspiration to all who need to hear a kind word of encouragement. And the best part is yet to come. Let us go on together, figuring out what else is waiting for us in this world of feelings, emotions, lessons of life. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the truth, which is hidden by the back of our decision-making, is often hidden in the details that don't always notice it. It is as if it were an invisible layer, which influences our decisions in a way that is subtle, almost imperceptible, but one that shapes the whole of the journey. And it is this layer that, in the majority of cases, it is related to our patterns of thinking, our beliefs, the more deep-rooted ones, the ones that we carry from childhood, often without even realizing it. It is these beliefs that create a sort of filter through which we interpret the world around us and influence our actions, our emotions, and, above all, of our decision-making. In the course of our history, we have learned to believe in the limitations often imposed by the experiences of the past, by the opinions of people who we consider to be the authority, or or even in a culture that has shaped a specific way. These built-in limitations to end up functioning as a kind of program that runs in the background of our minds, often without being aware of it. And when it's time to make a decisive choice, whether it be in career, in a relationship, in health, or in the pursuit of a dream, these beliefs undermine our autonomy to prevent us from moving forward or put us in a cycle of auto-sabotage without even realizing it. The great thing is that this layer is invisible. It can be changed. And for the transformation only happens when we begin to question those beliefs, to understand where they come from and why do we insist on them. It is a process of self-discovery that takes courage. It often means confronting the pain of old, reviving fears, and face the truths that we would rather hide from. But at the same time, it is in this conflict that we find the opportunity to free ourselves from these shackles built in and create a new narrative for your life. This is the narrative shall be supported by a decision in mind, a mindset that is open to new possibilities and a willingness to genuine learning. When we begin to understand that the rack is invisible, we are more attentive to our emotions, and our standards are being displayed. We realize that many of the reactions that before we thought of as something random or is not within our control, in fact, it has deep roots. And by identifying these patterns, we can begin to replace them with new habits of mind, more in line with what you really want. This is how to reprogram a piece of software that was out of date by replacing the limiting belief through statements, empowering, for example, of people who have walked similar paths and claimed that once seemed impossible. It's all part of the process of the impact on our journey of growth. It's not about to change for a change, but to understand that every choice we make is an opportunity to reaffirm our authenticity and our inner power and strength. And in doing so, we begin to realize that our life is a story that you can rewrite at any time, as long as you have the courage to look inward, to face up to what needs to be changed, and to make choices that truly reflects our core. This is the big reveal that only a few have the courage to accept the power of changing it is, in fact, not only in our own minds, and in our willingness to continue to evolve. Now, I want to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the impact of this change of mind is something that echoes in every area of our lives. When we change the way we think, change the way they act. And by changing our actions, we change the outcome of what we heard. This is a string that begins within, in your essence, and it manifests itself in the external world, a way of life that many people have no idea. Every decision, every choice is an opportunity to reinforce this new way of understanding what we are building. It is as if we are creating a new reality through an inner change, a fact that is often hidden under layers of doubts and limitations. The important point is to recognize that this journey is not linear. There are many ups and downs, moments of doubt, and fear of relapse. And that's okay. Do the inner work requires persistence, patience, and a dose of self-love. Because along the way, you'll find that many of our long-held beliefs have been created by a narrative that has been told by others or by experience that, in fact, they do not define who we are, in fact. And then, when you release yourself from those bonds, you start to realize that true freedom lies in our ability to decide who you want to be. And regardless of the past or of the external reviews, this change, in addition to the impact you directly on to our self-esteem, it also helps you to build a new relationship with the world's most authentic and in alignment with our deepest values. It is a journey of self-discovery which shows the strength that lies within each and every one of us is a power that only manifests itself when we on the jet with limiting thoughts. And once you unlock that potential, we have opened the doors for a chance to be there seem to be unreachable, and creating a new story of hope, courage, and truth. This is the beauty of understanding the impact begins in the mind. When we change our thoughts, we can begin a revolution in the home that's reflected in our lives in a way that no one is able to predict or control, except to ourselves. And it is precisely this freedom that it gives you a sense of the whole of our journey, a journey that is, at each step, we will tell you how much we're able to go above and beyond what we imagined. And in the meantime, the universe conspires to help those who have the courage to look within and make the necessary changes to live a more full, more real, and more in tune with the essence of pure. He comments that it makes no sense to me. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line because that's the quest for freedom and for the authenticity. Many of the times, there are a lot of obstacles and invisible that we have from the childhood, as if they were strings attached and quiet that we hold on to a way of life, limiting beliefs, and to have a routine in place, although it seems safe, is often stifle our inner selves. In these lines, in fact, they are mental constructs, which have been consolidated over time, driven by the expectations of the outside, out of fear of judgment, because in a culture that emphasizes the most on the appearance of the truth within. And it is precisely at this point that, for the transformation begins to unfold, when we begin to question what's really important, when we allow ourselves to break down all of the things that we were taught as absolute truth. The journey to self-knowledge, that is, before all, to make a break with this narrative, is imposed on them. It is about having the courage, yes, but it's also a dose of curiosity and a genuine for you to explore on our own borders in order to understand what really drives us, what makes us vibrate with joy, and that makes you feel trapped. Many of the times, it is this freedom comes when we found out that a large part of what keeps us moving forward in our own country, on the inner voice that urges us to put down, we tell you that we are not able to, or that we don't deserve anything better. The voice, in the majority of the time, they are echoes from the past experience of trauma is not resolved, the expectations that were never met. When faced with these questions, we begin to realize the truth which is hidden by the back of that, in the limit. It is, in fact, an opportunity for growth. It's like a light that shines on our path to transformation is genuine. We learn to appreciate our own decisions, to trust our own intuition, and to construct a new narrative that is based on authenticity. This change in mindset is essential because it will help us to look beyond the surface to understand the impact we can make in our own lives and that of others. Depends to a large extent what we decide to believe about ourselves. And in the process, every step we take in the direction of self-knowledge, which is possible thanks to silent, in a statement to you that we are able to break away from the past and create a future that is more aligned with who you really are. Of course, this journey is not linear. It is full of ups and downs, moments of doubt, and the amazing discoveries. The most fascinating part of it is realizing that, as we go on this way, we can begin to see a behind the scenes of your own mind, and those beliefs, they often didn't even have the awareness that it was there, invisible, but have a huge impact on our daily choices. When we begin to realize this revelation changes everything, all of a sudden, life starts to make more sense of it, because we live in a routine, automatic, and then we experience each and every time with a more present, more aware of what is real to us. And in the process of change, one thing remains clear. It is for freedom that we seek is not out there in the external environment, but is in all of us. It is a journey of discovery, to accept that we are complete beings, capable of making choices that elevate us, and that we can connect you with the things that really matter. That's the beauty of all of this, to understand it, to make room for the new, the different, the one that challenges our long-held beliefs. We can begin to build a life that is aligned with our deepest values. It is a change that affects all the areas that affect our relationships, our jobs, our health, emotional state, and more importantly, makes you feel alive and real. And as long as this transformation occurs, many of the revelations come as the pieces of the puzzle slowly fall into place. They are insights that show us that the journey is more than just meet the goals of the external. It is, after all, a revolution in the homeland, with a shift in perspective that allows us to see life in a new light, and in this new light, and brings peace of mind, which, very often, it seemed far away, as if it were a state of mind out of reach. But the truth is, it's always been inside of us, just waiting for us to permittissimos to find out their shine, for your strength. And when you understand it, you can begin to walk more lightly on the planet, with more courage, or the right to which each made a conscious decision brings us one step closer to living out the truth that was always there, hidden beneath the layers of insecurity and fear. Now, I want you to go even deeper on this topic. Because of this connection with our essence, that is, in fact, it is one of the greatest expressions of freedom that you can try out. And that freedom is, when you earn it, you have the power to change not only our lives, but also the impact that we leave on the world around us. This is a real revolution in the quiet. Go on a journey of discovery in what is beyond the words, beyond the action outside, into the very core of who we are, in fact. And it is at this point that we realize that the real transformation begins from from the inside to the outside, and the outside changes are only the reflections of the changes in the internal, and the journey of self-discovery. It is, in essence, a journey of self-love. He writes in, "I'm on this journey too." I now want to go more in depth on this subject, for it is precisely at this point that we begin to see beyond the masks that we wear in daily life. Those masks often hide our true emotions of our innermost desires, and even our doubts, the most quiet in operation. And that's when the transformation becomes a matter of courage. The courage to face all the things that we'd rather ignore, for the recognition of our own limitations, and at the same time to enter into our full potential. When you begin to look at the inside, honest with ourselves, we realize that a large part of what keeps us from moving forward is rooted in a mindset that has been built up over the course of the time by external influences, by the fears of a legacy, for those who do not belong to me, in fact. This wake-up procedure is a real revolution in the quiet because, as opposed to changes in the surface, or with a simple swap of the routines, it calls for a shift in paradigms. It is as though, all of a sudden, we saw the world through a different perspective, with a view to a clearer and more real. In the process, result of the revelations, that may seem small, but they carry an impact is immeasurable. We have found that a lot of our decision-making, which seemed to be the result of conscious choices, in fact, were automatic responses to a set of constraints. We learn also that the thing that we call failure is often just a learning opportunity in disguise, a chance to get to know each other better, and to understand where the error is part of the path of evolution. And so, little by little, we begin to understand that the key is consistency. At that day-to-day struggle of having a mindset that is more open, more resilient, more in love with yourself. It is as though, all of a sudden, we had built a new, strong, and is the backbone of our entire journey. From that point on, everything seemed to be distant, becomes more and more accessible, because it is the real power comes from within, that deep connection with who we really are. Transformation, then, there would be a search for an external and an inner discovery, a journey that reveals our very essence, to take care of our core values, most important, and, above all, of our ability to love and accept yourself with all your imperfections. And it is at this point that it all gets a whole new dimension to it, because we now understand that the impact that we are looking at the outside world will only remain when we are in alignment with our deepest truth. In this connection, the self is that which gives meaning to the decisions we make, the actions we perform, the changes we want to implement. If you recognize yourself as a part of a greater whole, in the sense of the impact, that it becomes more real, more tangible, precisely because it is born out of an understanding of the genuine, of who we are and what we can offer to the world. And so the journey of self-discovery turns into the greatest tool of transformation, which can be, for it teaches us that it is, in essence, are the main responsible for all the things that you live in and how we can improve. He comments that, "It makes no sense to me." I now want to go more in depth on this subject. It is because of this connection, and the whole is not just a philosophy of the beautiful, or the idea that we hear at motivational speaking. It is, in fact, an invitation to a real transformation, a door that opens up to a broader understanding of who we are and the impact we can make, not just in our own lives, but in society as a whole. When we understand that our actions, our choices, our attitudes, all of which will reverberate beyond our own universe, and everything gets a whole new dimension to it. Each of the decision to leave a mark, every thought, every feeling, and contributes to a network of possibilities, which are woven together in amazing ways. From this understanding, it is our way of thinking is going to be more aware of it. Don't you just act on impulse or reaction to the circumstances without a lot of work. We went to see the impact of our actions in the routine, in relationships, in the community, and even the world. It's like when you realize that you are a part of a larger system, a responsibility to be quiet, to be aroused within us, one that is often ignored in the rush of day to day. This is the responsibility, even though it seems heavy at times, it is actually liberating, because it gives us the ability to make choices that truly matter of turn a small action in the waves of change that might be spread out in stunning fashion. And then there comes a question that a lot of times it is hidden beneath the surface. What are the truths that are hidden, that influence our decision-making? What are the beliefs we carry without realizing it, that shape our choices and limit our view of the opportunities? The story we tell ourselves, many times, is full of constraints and limitations that prevent prevent us from moving forward. When we begin to tap into these scenes and domestic, to find out the signs that you're back to what we believe to be true, it changes everything. It is at this point that we began to realize that the transformation is not something external, something that is achieved with the effort of the surface, but it is a journey of reflection and of the courage to face our own shadows, our deepest fears and our doubts, the most quiet in operation. To make that bridge the gap between what we believe and the real impact of what we can produce, we understand that real change comes from the inside out. Is not enough to just wish for a better life. You want more success or happiness. If you are not ready to revise our own personal beliefs, the question of what limits us. It is as if in some way we are stuck in a kind of prison or invisible, created by our own choices and automatic thoughts. And it is the key to this freedom is the courage to explore these behind the scenes, to puzzle out the signs that lead us to a deeper understanding of who we are and who we can become. This is a journey of self-discovery, becomes one of the most powerful tools for transformation, because it gives us the clarity that we are not victims of chance or from external circumstances, but we are the protagonists of a story that you can rewrite. Each and every insight, every revelation, it is a piece that fits in the construction of a new mentality, which is more in line with our values of authenticity and the impact that we want to leave you out in the world. And at the same time, this understanding broadens our understanding of the time and opportunities and the impact of, and making every step of the journey is loaded with the purpose and the meaning of it. When we begin to look beyond the surface, we find that our decision-making, not just the shape of it, but also to build the foundation for the future. And to understand this connection, we find that the real transformation is about having the courage, dedication, and above all, a genuine desire to improve. This is where comes the importance of being open-minded, be willing to listen, learn, and accept the fact that whenever there is something new to be found in all of us. In this provision, many, many times, it's the one that makes all the difference between making a living that you remain in your comfort zone and go on a journey of continuous growth in which each congregation is an opportunity to reinvent yourself. And it is this reinvention, it's not something that happens at one time or another, but it's an ongoing process of self-discovery and the small, everyday decisions that add up to create a far-reaching transformation. Each moment of reflection, each of conscious choice, it is like a seed planted in the fertile ground of our soul, which over time blossoms in a new version of ourselves. And in the process, you start to realize that the most significant changes are not what is outside, but it's in the way we see the world, how we position ourselves in the face of adversity, and how we decide to act in a way that is aligned with our essence, is closer to the truth. When you have this understanding, it becomes part of our daily lives, on our journey of transformation to gain a power, almost magnetic. We attract the opportunities, people, and experiences that resonate with this new phase of self-discovery and growth. It's as if a higher frequency is being received, open the door to a life more fully, more in tune with our deepest values. And at the same time, the connection with the biggest impact for us is to understand what each step is a contribution to something bigger, a reverb that is beyond even our own expectations and limitations. At this point, then, it is clear that the key to lasting change is in the courage to jump in the deep end, the face of the truths that a lot of times we would prefer to ignore. It is a journey that requires patience, persistence, and a dose of humility, is to recognize that there is still so much to learn and figure it out. But more than anything else, she asks with a sincere desire to evolve, to open yourself up to the unknown, and trust that by doing so, the impact that we can make it overwhelming. And so, as we continue in our quest for self-knowledge and the impact, we can see that it's all part of a vast network of possibilities, where each and every one of us is a work of fundamental importance. And the recognition of our role in the universe, our vision expands, our decisions become more and more aware of, and our journey the most significant. After all, when we accept that we are the protagonists of a larger story, it all takes on a new meaning, and to transform turns out to be a natural consequence of this understanding. a more in-depth. Now, I want to leave the story up in the air, inviting you to think about how their own decisions and beliefs that have influenced you on this journey of evolution. He writes that, "It makes no sense to me. As you delve deeper into this thinking, it is clear that every choice we make, every decision, quiet, you take on the day-to-day, it's like a piece of the puzzle that makes up our story. Many times we don't realize the impact that our actions have on the construction of our own destiny, because we are caught up in a routine, automatic thoughts, conditioned by beliefs that are not always asked. These beliefs often act as filters in much the invisible, shaping our perception of the world, in any way limiting or expanding our opportunities for growth. And it is precisely here that will be presented in a powerful transformation that occurs when we begin to question what has been imposed on the breakdown of old concepts, and to understand that we all have the power to rewrite our narrative from a different perspective. Real change begins with the awareness of our emotions, our behaviors, and even our reactions are automatic. They are deeply connected to our beliefs, the most widespread. When we allow ourselves to explore in this universe is built, we have found that many of our limitations are, in fact, the constructions of the mind that they can be deconstructed. This is not a change in the surface, but the transformation that comes from within. It is about having the courage to face up to the things that a lot of times we would prefer to ignore, our fears, our doubts, and the thing that keeps us from moving forward. It's like opening a door that leads to the corridor of infinite possibilities, where the freedom to choose when and if it becomes an achievement, and a daily decision to reaffirm who we are, in fact, in addition to the masks that we wear in order to please or to fit in. And in the process, we begin to understand that authenticity is the fuel for this journey of evolution. When you stopped hiding behind the expectations of both external and we listen to our inner voice, it all becomes a one-way, lightweight, and natural. Such a genuine connection with who they really are gives us the strength to face all the hurdles with a mentality that is more resilient, more open to change. To believe in our ability to transform our lives, this is a major step in that journey, is underpinned by a strong foundation of self-confidence and hope. And at the same time, that self-confidence is strengthened to the extent that we realize that each decision, no matter how simple it may seem, it has a direct impact on the quality of our evolution. From this understanding, it is clear that the transformation is not something that happens from one hour to the other, but it's an ongoing process of self-discovery. Every time we decide to act in a different way, opening up the space for vulnerability, or simply to listen to what our soul is telling us, we are moving forward in the direction of a mindful and full of themselves. It is as if with each step, with each reflection, this was a piece that fits in the construction of a mindset that is stronger, more aligned with our true desires. And in it, we realize that the journey is just as important as the final destination, because it is here that we learn to cherish each and every moment of growth, and every time a new discovery about who they really are, apart from the masks to the social. And it is precisely at this point that it is a revelation of the powerful. It reveals the change that you are searching for is not dependent on external conditions or of the factors which are outside of our control. It is born out of an internal decision, from a sincere desire to look into it, to accept our own imperfections, and of the use of the latter as a stepping stone to progress. This realization is liberating because it takes away from the role of a victim of the circumstances and in places as well as those responsible for one's own way. And when you realize this, it becomes easier to understand that life, with all its ups and downs, this is an opportunity for constant reinvent, rewrite our history with courage, purpose, and a mindset that fosters the growth of the genuine article. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. Have you ever stopped to think about how their decisions are often driven by a desire to please or to fit into a certain standard? How do these choices that shape their routine, their beliefs, and as a result, their transformation? It is important for you to understand that in the pursuit of a life that is more authentic, a lot of times we need to challenge what we have been taught to accept as the truth. This relation is what is really driving the change, the one that comes from the inside out and can impact all aspects of our work. And when you do that, you start to realize that a journey of self-discovery is not just a phase, but a path of continual dance between the understanding of who we are and the courage to be who you really want to be. He comments that, "It makes no sense to me. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is exactly the essence of this relation, which which we find out the biggest secrets to a lasting change. Many people are looking for external changes, for quick fixes or magic formulas that promise immediate results. But for the real revolution happens when you decide to look within, to confront our own lies and myths and insider. It is at this point that we begin to question what we are really limited in what we accept as truth without even realizing it. Most of the time, these beliefs have been imposed by the environment, the culture, or the experience that we have marked in a negative way. The deconstruction, in this sense, is not an act of destruction, but it is a chance to rebuild. It is a chance to rewrite the narrative that we tell ourselves. We can open up space for new possibilities, which before would have seemed impossible. And in doing so, we noticed many of our decisions, actions, and even the feelings that are deeply rooted in concepts that may not always be our own, but they must have been inherited, learned, or enhanced from time to time. When we started to take apart the layers, it is clear that the real freedom is the ability to choose who they really want to be, without the shackles of the past, or to the expectations of external stakeholders. This is a journey of deconstruction. It also reveals a dark side that is often avoided to confront, the truth hidden. Because in most cases, we prefer to hide from the things that bother you and pretend that all is well, or so to justify our behavior through the excuses that seem to be reasonable, but which, in essence, take us away from authenticity. It's as if we loaded a skin, a character that we created in order to please the world, and keeping in mind that the greatest change happens when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, to accept our own flaws and understanding that it's all part of the process of growing up. When you dive in deep, you start to realize that the impact of the change in its internal structure is not the only. It reverberates in our relationships, in the way we see the world, and in our ability to have a positive impact on the people around you. Because as we change, we become living examples of the true power comes from within. The mind is strengthened and made a conscious decision to continue to evolve. It is a journey that requires courage, yes, but it is also a genuine openness to learning from your own mistakes, and to accept that evolution is a continuous cycle with no end. And as we walk through this journey of self-discovery, we are confronted with a revelation that challenges our deeply held beliefs, that cause us to question everything we thought was the truth. These revelations, the more uncomfortable it may seem at first, are actually a catalyst for a transformation in the real, for us to look beyond the surface to understand the impact of our decisions, and to build a new version of ourselves, the more in tune with who we really are and who you want to be. I now want to go more in depth on this topic, because at the heart of it all, this is a question that is often left to the right. Which is the real motivation behind the choices we make? Are we acting out of impulse, out of fear, or a genuine desire to grow? And how can we be sure that such a change is to be sustainable, and that it's not just a phase, a passing, but a new way of living and thinking? These questions will lead us to understand that the journey of transformation is not just about a change in behavior, but more importantly, about to transform our way of thinking and open up the space for new perspectives, and, above all, to learn how to listen to our deeper truth, one that often remains hidden under the layers of insecurity and doubt. And, in the process, we have discovered that the path to real change is non-linear. It is made up of ups and downs, moments of doubt and certainty quickly from setbacks, and advances of the blue. With every step, however small it may seem to you, it's a chance to reconnect with your essence, to reaffirm your commitment to being who you truly want to be. Authenticity is becoming the basis for this transformation, because only it can guarantee that the decisions made are in line with your purpose, the more the true. And if you allow yourself to live the truth, even if it's uncomfortable or challenging, you can start to build a new narrative, a story of courage, resilience, and self-love that extends far beyond what you thought was possible. By the end of this journey, autoquestionamento, and the reconstruction is, in fact, a day of its release. Free yourself from the bondage that we have imposed on ourselves and of the opinions of others, one of the labels that have been placed, and the limitations that we have created. It is a chance to no longer be held hostage to an image that is not in harmony with who we really are, and, on the contrary, necessary to assume the role of our own history. In this path of discovery, with each step taken, each made a conscious decision, each time for reflection, and helps us go on shaping a version that is closer to the truth, the more strong and more in tune with what is most authentic in all of us. And so we, in no time, with the certainty that the greatest transformation is always from the inside to the outside, revealing our deepest truth, the hidden, the one that was always there, waiting to be discovered and released. He comments that it makes no sense to me. I now want to go more in depth on this topic because this is a journey of self-discovery will often reveal a layer that is not thought to exist. When we first started to explore this truth within, we realized that the highest tensile strength often comes from within, from the limiting beliefs that have been shaped over the years. It's almost like a silent shadow that follows our every step, even when you are not careful. These beliefs may seem small, but it has a huge impact on the way we act, to make decisions, and to see the world around us. They create a sort of filter that distorts our perception of it, causing us to compromise of their potential, or to doubt that a radical change is possible. And it is precisely at this point in the processing, it becomes a matter of decision-making. Because in spite of the complexity of the relation of these beliefs, and the truth concealed, is that it all starts with a conscious choice, a decision to face what is behind of this limitations, and beyond that, it looks comfortable, to allow the growth of many of the times it requires you experience pain or discomfort. Temporary. This is a choice. No matter how simple it may seem, it's the first step that we can in fact break the old patterns and create a new narrative for yourself, in a narrative that is consistent with who we are, who we can be, without any of the restraints that have been imposed upon them by outside opinions, or in a culture that often celebrated on the surface to the detriment of the nature. When you dive into the process of discovery, we've begun to realize that the truth is more shocking, is the truthfulness, the courage to be who you really are, even if it goes against what seems to be expected of others. This authenticity is a kind of light that illuminates our transformation because it fuels the desire to create a life that aligns with our values and what beats at the bottom of our hearts. And at this point, we note that the impact of this change is not only a house. It echoes the way in which we relate, how we face the challenges of day-to-day life, our ability to make informed decisions about their claims, and to cope with the adversities of life with an attitude that is more conscious and strong. However, this is a journey of self-discovery also reveals a behind the scenes of your own mind, often a stage full of stories that we are telling ourselves from time to time, stories that reinforce our fears, our doubts, our insecurities. And once you understand those behind the scenes, you start to realize that a lot of these stories that it can be rewritten. You can create a new narrative, one that is more empowering, and it is true. It is as if to unravel those behind the scenes, get a new perspective, a people who once seemed out of reach. This freedom is born out of the understanding that we are all responsible for the shaping of our history, and each and every decision, every thought, your every action contributes to the creation of a new version of ourselves. And it is at this point in the journey to become a real transformation from the inside to the outside. Why, when we discover the truth that is hidden, they will no longer be something far away or out of reach, thus becoming a powerful force that drives us forward, a force that can transform not just our minds, but also in the choices we make, our relationship, and even the way we see the world and all the possibilities that are there for him. In it, we see that the authenticity and the courage to be who you really are the greatest catalyst of this change, because they help us to connect with our essence, the purest, the one who's always been there, waiting for the right moment to come in and lighten up the path. And, in the course of this journey, one thing has become clear. There is not a magic bullet, nor is it a secret is hidden. Go to speed up the process. True transformation requires patience, dedication, and, most importantly, the provision of genuinely getting to know yourself deeply. It is a journey of discovery and acceptance, in which each step is an opportunity to learn, to be free from the illusions, and embrace who we really are, with all our flaws and strengths. In this never-ending quest for authenticity, this is the one that connects us to the truth that is hidden, revealing it to that part of us that we, too many times, and it was hidden away for fear of a society that values the look of the essence. For this reason, it is important to think about what's really on the limit. What are the stories that we tell in order to justify our decisions or our questions? What are the fears still remain concealed in the back of our minds, fueling worries that seem to be unrealistic? unbreakable? And more importantly, how can we take the first step towards a break with these internal barriers, open the door to a transformation of the genuine? These questions are the start of an awakening, a journey that takes courage, but at the same time, it gives you the freedom to be who we truly are, without masks or lies, with the core of pure, shining strong. Who knows, when we think about all of this, you realize that the greater truth is hidden. It is our ability to choose each day who you want to be. And that is that, as simple as it may sound, it has the power to change our reality and turn the dreams into concrete actions and to bring us into a state of bliss, which is only possible when you connect with us as genuine. In this connection, it is the one that moves us in the direction of living a life that is more authentic, more real, and where the processing is no longer something foreign and happens to be the experience of a deep inner journey of discovery that never ends, because there is always something new to learn, understand, and gain the inside of you. And in it, you realize that the impact is not only on the change in the exterior, but on the strength that comes from within, fueled by the courage to be true to one's own truth. I now want to go more in depth on this topic, as it's the true transformation doesn't just happen on the surface. She is an in-depth understanding of who we are and the decisions we make in the course of our journey. Many times when we are so immersed in the routines, expectations, and external pressures in society that we forget to listen to that inner voice, the one that whispers that you really want, what makes you feel alive and real. This is where it comes to the importance of open-mindedness, a willingness to break down what we have been taught as truth, and to explore the layers of hidden from our own. This farm is like a trip to the countryside, where we found out that our essence is not something that is fixed, but it is a solid construction shaped by the choices we make, the moments of joy, and, even for the errors which too often, carrying the lessons more valuable than a victory. However, this is a journey of self-discovery requires a great deal of honesty and courage. A lot of people live in a sort of mask, in a constant attempt to please others or to fit in with the standards predetermined, keeping in mind that authenticity is a mainstay of life in all its fullness. When we begin to recognize the masks from the exercise of self-observation, we take the first step to a true transformation. And it is at this point that the mind needs to be in line with our desire to change it wisely when they are the fuel that powers the transformation of the interior. Each and every decision, however small it may seem, it bears a huge impact on our journey to shape who we are and who we can become. The revelations, which often remain hidden under the surface of the routine, is automated if you make it obvious when you stop and think. This revelation did not come all of a sudden. They come out of the silence, reach out to our emotions, the more genuine and the provision of real face our own truths in the most difficult situations. It is this insight that we have started to look beyond the surface. He realized that the true transformation does not change the surface, but it is a renewal, a profound impact on our way of thinking, feeling, and acting. And when you realize this, it becomes clear that the changes that actually make a difference, it's not something that happens from the outside to the inside, but it's a thing that happens from the inside to the outside, and a real revolution in the home that is reflected in every decision, every relationship, and the way we see the world. To understand this dynamic, we can begin to understand the impact of our transformation goes far beyond what we could ever imagine. It influences the way in which we interact with others as we face the daily challenges and how we allow ourselves to dream and to build a new life, more in tune with our inner selves. This is a journey that seems too often silent until the loner is in fact a deep connection to the truth, a never-ending quest for authenticity purposes. And along the way, we found out that the greatest power we have is our own personal courage that leads us to go forward even in the face of uncertainty, doubts, and fears that inevitably arise. Turning, therefore, is an act of courage, is a decision to look within and to accept what you find there, no matter how difficult it may be. It is a process of rewriting history, to break down limiting beliefs and build a new narrative based on our experiences more more fully. This requires patience, self-discipline, and above all, self-love. Because only in this way we were able to sustain long-term change. And in this quest, the signs are becoming more and more clear that the patterns disappear and a new sense of self emerges, powerful and free, conscious of their own potential. It is at this point that we realized how much we are able to shape our reality and to transform the obstacles on the stairs, to create a life that truly resonates with who we are of the truth. Now, I want you to imagine how it would be if every decision you take from the connection, the more true to yourself, you could actually have an impact in all areas of your life by creating a chain of changes that will reverberate in your emotional health, your creativity, your purpose, and even their relationship with the world around them. This is the essence of transformation, the one who was born from a journey of self-discovery and courage. It is a journey that never ends, because at each step, the new, we have found that there is still so much to learn, to understand, and to win in all of us. And as their journey continues, we realize that the greatest impact, it is precisely in our ability to be true to our own truth, even if it goes against everything you've been taught or imposed from the outside. This is the essence of true freedom, in the wake of a life more in tune, more sincere, and more on our. If you've come this far, it's because I really connected with this idea of searching for authenticity and to live according to your truth. It may seem to be a way of challenging at times, but it's the one that brings the greatest sense of meaning and peace of mind. If this message resonated in any way, it is useful to leave it in a comment saying, "I'm with you till the end," or some such phrase that shows that the story made any sense to you. Thus, we are able to create an exchange is even more genuine here in the comments. And of course, if this content made you think, like the video, it's a natural way to strengthen that connection. Does not need to be charged. It's just a recognition of what has been handed over to talk to us. Each of the enjoy will help to add to that conversation. To make more people think about these issues is so important. If you like what you heard, here is a hint. There's a video right here on the side which complements this subject. You can click and keeps me there as well. So, we can drill down further on these ideas and to follow the journey of self-discovery and transformation. Thank you for the follow-up to the very end, for taking this time for yourself, and be open to thinking about what really matters to you. It is this connection that makes it all worth it. I hope to see you in the next video, where we will further explore these issues, and to help build and improve its search for a life that is aligned and it is true. See you there.